We're going to continue with the presentations of the PhD of Biology in Study of Microbiome. He'll be speaking about green biohacking, brain efficiency, neurodetox, and elements of ration to increase creativity and involvement. He will also share about how the right food and detox may increase your mental resources and creative potential. You will learn about scientific methods to uncover your brain capacity. Let's welcome Dmitry Alekseev.
Да, коллеги, привет. Особенно приятно после Вячеслава.
I'd like to welcome everyone today, especially after the previous speaker, a lot of theory, we're discussing some things with him, and it's great, You guys have been at the previous lecture, so it's going to be a continuation of what you've heard, and I will try to give you some practice and to add more about microbes. Right now, as I was listening, and I was comparing with neural networks and with natural intellect and artificial intellect, because I'm thinking a lot about microbes, the way of communication, their conscience. I have realized, listening Vyacheslav, that those couple of billions of years that we've gone through bacteria to the modern human brain, we are watching the creation of the first silicon processor. And up to the GPT chat, we have seen the same, but on a much, much shorter time frame. And we're going to see a lot of interesting things. Today, let's talk about stress, because I believe this is what has a huge, biggest impact on our efficiency. How can we help brain by eating good food? I think it's a great, challenge of my life. It drives me. Having graduated from the physical university, I never expected to be in microbes and microbial stuff, and then I began to PhD in biology, and then I began to study it with my patients. I also began to study, can I become much more creative? Can I be the attraction for certain new and original ideas by improving my gut. And the longer I live, then I see that scientific data tells me, yes, it is possible. For an average person, the level from, zero care about your microbiome to the first level, it dramatically changes you. Basically, you will feel that things are getting better in your life. You'll feel quality of your thoughts. And let's also talk about what creativity is all about and motivation. How can you work with them? Especially, do you guys do brainstorms? You need some new ideas and so on. You will find it very, very interesting. No, not trying to repeat what the previous speaker has said. Let's talk about stress. Stress can be seen by this curve. At first, we don't do nothing. We're like a couch potato. Efficiency is zero. Stress level is low. And then we begin to do something. Easy work, some efficiency, and at some point we go to like a peak of our productivity. We do maximum what we can do, and we feel some optimal tension. After a while in this kind of mode, we get exhausted. If you are feeling different methodology like a Pomodoro, you feel this cyclical fatigue after 40 minutes. Then you get rid of it, and then you go back. This is how our brain operates when we deal with this kind of things. So if we'll not be taking our rest here, then you know what will happen. This fatigue will go into exhaustion, and you want to do more. But you cannot do more. You work worse and worse. And our emotional kind of background is helping. If you are tracing your emotions, you begin to get irritated, get mad, get short fuse and panic and anger. That means that you have gone too far in your work you're very close to burnout. Do you know the word burnout in your experience? Yeah. Adults need to experience it several times before repeating this behavior and following their emotions. You get in some kind of routine. When we're kids, we think, oh, we can work 24/7. Have you tried 24/7? Well, my brothers and sisters. Then you get a breakdown and burnout. It's a defense mechanism of our brain and body. It knows that you are going over the edge and you're misusing it, that you're a jerk in your mind and your body, he or she is trying to do what you cannot do. And to stop this jerk and to make them come to their senses and reflect a little bit and change their life path, your subconscious is putting this this person, put them on the couch and deprive them of any motivation for life. You do not want to do anything. You do not need all the neural mediators to have any motivation. And if you are in this stage, the best advice from me would be to reflect. Okay, I have a burnout, I don't want to have it again. If you're trying to do something like a push through the burnout and exhaustion to go back and not reflect on it, then again, you're probably going to repeat this situation. Repeat until you sort of come to understand it. Another case. I'm using a more simple association. Maybe you've heard about this reptile brain. It's good that Mr. Dubinin left. For neurophysiologists, it's a wrong story, but it explains your brain structure very easy, because the deepest zones of the brain, we got it from the lizards, and then the next zone we got it from mammals. We have some memories, we have some emotions, and so on. This is like your dog that saw you until it sees you. It does not think about you. Your dog is not thinking about you. But once it saw you, it remembers you, and it is not projecting any plans on the future, what to do with you. Dog does not do that. It sees you, it remembers emotions, licks you all over, and this is how the dog lives. And we, due to the neocortex, we can, and because we have a speech and concepts, we can plan our future. And this is what our brain looks like. Limbic brain theory. And the most interesting that the modern brain, because we are under the influence of stress, our efficiency right here. And among the different concepts, we achieve something great, we do some actions, we come up with... Is it important for you to come up with any new ideas and new concepts? Not just to do the routine, but to come up with new things. It's right here in your brain. So in the state of stress, again, your brain works, the built-in systems, defense systems from the overheating. Gives less electricity right here, and this kind of light bulb kind of becomes dim. It lights here and then here. Eventually, we will always be dropping down to our instinctive behavior. And this is behavior that we've learned when we were kids, and it's in our genes, of how we're going to react to different situations. Even if we have been through some kind of trauma, still information with this trauma stays engraved in our brain, and this is a traumatic kind of reaction stays with us if you go through therapy. Right here we got new neurons, and this kind of signal for trauma is kind of dimmed a little bit. Did you guys have any boss which was shouting, screaming at you? Not too many. Not so many of you. Back in my time, you cannot even imagine. I used to be a programmer, and this used to be in the beginning 2000s, to shout at people, scream at people. It's a way of achieving some efficiency. So if this person kind of shouted, screamed at you, led to toxicity, and for example, he was a beard and he was a blonde, next time, as a reaction, as an instinct to such a person, you'll get scared. You will not like bearded people and blonde people, and you'll be kind of all be tensing up. And then kind of joking in the bar and with a psychologist and meditating, there'll be new sprouts, new neurons growing up whenever you see this person with a beard. You'll hear, oh no, this is not the same guy. It was a different guy from your past. This guy's not from your past. And so we are beginning to react differently. But if we're drunk, if you're tired, if we are under the influence of some kind of toxic things or being intoxicated in our gut, this part switches off and we again begin to react to bearded blonde people. And even if you go to like a super psychotherapist, you're still behaving yourself the way you would by reacting on trauma instinctively. This is the survival of our brain. It has some instinct of survival, which basically we do not need to apply every day. Anyway, this is the decision center. This is where you make this decision. Everybody needs stress. What is stress? Again, Mr. Dubinin told us it's some adaptive reaction of our body on new circumstances at the moment when you experience them. You know, our historic past was like what? We went somewhere along the forest and you met some predator, and when you met a predator, you need to run away from him, and the process of digestion and new blood, we do not need anything. You know, all your veins conscript, but then the blood and muscles, more blood goes to your muscles. You can hear better, see better, to be able to run away from an animal. And being under stress, you need to solve the test to survive, basically, not to get in the claws of this animal. If you guys caused stress, they were able to run away or to catch your prey. It's quite an interesting story. If you look at it, it turns out that in the forest, you know, a wolf never runs after a rabbit by hours. They have like a 1 minute, 2 minutes. If you caught it, you caught it. If not, you're not. You know, you cannot run. You cannot, like only in the cartoons, they can run for hours. Things are happening fast. After they've done it, what do? They switch off to the mode of being relaxed. If you have like pets, you know, like sometimes, what do? They're sleeping. They're sleeping. Yeah, they are sleeping. They are sleeping and switching to relax mode. All the stress mechanisms are shut down, and there's only one being on planet Earth who has this kind of mobile device, and as soon as stress goes away, you open up and you cause stress. You know, Pinocchio, not a Pinocchio, but we have this ability. We are lacking stress, so we take out our phones. You know, I got some kind of message from my wife. But I know that there's a stress, and I like it. I like it. Even some, you know what? Sometimes I get a feeling that you don't have a phone, but something like vibrates. Yeah, you want it. You want it. You need some cortisol. And you and I are hooked on this cortisol. Why? Because it feels nice. It feels great. You know, you're a little bit more kind of tense up. Your muscles are more toned. You feel and see better. Less like a vegetable, more like a roaring kind of animal, predator. It's a good feeling. But you do not always need it, especially chronically. So part of our stress level of cortisol throughout the day, it's interesting. Cortisol is raising up in the morning. Why? To wake up. Yes, to wake up. Because it's launching levels of energy. What else do you need to do in the morning? Oh, you know, in terms of evolution, I'm trying to say. Why do you need cortisol? By the way, coffee, you know, you don't need it. Based on this schedule, on this graph, you do not need coffee. You have enough cortisol to become effective. Evolutionally, it's a sugar goes up. It's like a morning dawn. We simply, after we wake up, we do not need to eat because we have a lot of energy in the blood. We have some kind of alertness to wake up and to find, not only to go to your fridge, but to, you know, catch it, to break it, to fight with somebody who also came to this. This is the real evolutionary story. Of course, now we do not need to do that, and we are more like, you know, like a lab rats in a sense. We're all dying of obesity because we have food 24/7. One of the ways to normalize your energy cycle is to set up some kind of good relationship with your food, an amount of food. Have you tried Lent or fasting in any format? Interesting. Have you ever felt that when you deprive yourself of food, you have more time, right? You have more time to work, but also you're much more efficient. Sometimes, I go out when I was like riding the subway, now we live far away. You get out of the subway, you do not need to see, where shawarma and donuts and bread. And it's because when you are fasting, your instinct, your hunter instinct sharpens, you feel, you see better, and basically, even in working relationships, it may be this kind of alertness of the hungry person could be very, very interesting. Why do we need cortisol? We've spoken about that. Modern technology. There is a phrase, dopanomics. Can you, like a dopamine in economics, dopanomics, like you can sell more stuff to people. It has already been mentioned about the dopamine detox. I don't know if you know it or not about all this scrolling, but your feed is algorithms, is trying to give you more interesting stuff to see in social media, and it gives you like a rhythm: interesting, non-interesting, interesting, non-interesting. So it leads you through the cycle, because if it will give you always interesting content, your dopamine will burn out. So they give you pause for the dopamine to get restored, and so that you would know, okay, I need to scroll and look for interesting things. It's perfect. It's perfect. The people do not need to do anything else. Just a swipe, they're going to do and watch, sitting on their toilet bowl and get more and more dopamine. Are you guys like sitting on the toilet bowl and watching stuff? Yeah, I raise up my hand. Okay, we are being trapped in this dopamine cycle. We're sitting in this habit, and everything else that they have to do, like a salespeople, instead of interesting like a post, they put this sales pitch. They put a sales pitch like something, like a merchandise. They'll say, "Wow, cool, stockings. I need this. Oh, it's so great. I'm gonna go and gonna click and stuff." This is how it works. Not these guys came up, it's a Hollywood guys. Film artists. There's also rhythm like explosion, and then like a naked woman, and then the water, something else going on. And this is how we can see. Have you guys seen like a 5, 6, 7, 8 series of the same movie? Yeah, they got into your dopamine cycle, and in this moment you are a slave. And now you are giving your human attention, and you're giving all your dopamine to those guys. The dopamine that you could have spent on the next day when you woke up for your motivation, for your goals, and for whatever you do, to be able to write the list of things you need to do, and one after another to do them, and to put like okay, I've done this like a to-do list, and get some pleasure. I'm saying that it's like a set of coins. You're given coins, and at any in any machine you can drop these coins. Yeah. And others would be like a series or a porn. Porn now is considered to be. He was saying about porn. He's a dentist, and he's saying a guy came to me. He says, I don't have anything interesting in life. And before that, a couple of days ago, there was a guy who wrote a book about the porn, how it deprives and motivation. I already read this book. Like, wow, you gotta stop watching porn. And he's like, and a month later he said, you know what? I don't know how you got it. How you got it. It works. It works. It doesn't matter what, but it's social media, series, or porn. It does not matter what, but it deprives you of this dopamine coin that you can spend in life. You know what I mean? Being efficient. Efficient and motivation, they go hand in hand, right? For efficiency, you need motivation. It's cool when you finish your task and feel pleasure that you've done something. This is how we are made, our brain. And due to that, our brain knows, like due to dopamine, like to poop. Whenever you poop, you feel pleasure. And small kids need to poop and they get a pleasure. Then we eat, we get a pleasure. And you're like pooping, eating. This is the basic. Everything else will be some kind of vertical things. The same about the newsfeed in your social media. There's more like a complex cycle goes through the stress. If any of you caught yourself that you're reading this like a awful black media, like one one news is bad, the other is like only negative news, and you turn it on, you think, okay, yeah, I'm missing that. I need some more trash and read more of that, garbage.
Стресс и надпочечники. Самое
No,
интересное, что за наш
stress
стресс отвечают
and our stress, that mostly,
истощение надпочечников, если мы соберем всю информацию.
speaking about the stress and speaking about the adrenal glands, they're being depleted. They're being depleted. It looks like the source of our stress. And again, if we want to do stress management for increasing our efficiency,
взять вот эту картинку и по кругу пройтись и посмотреть, а что из этого реально находится в зоне моего контроля, что из этого я могу максимально быстро улучшить, чтобы снизить, потому что все влияет.
We can take the picture and look at it and see what impacts a particular organ that secretes cortisol, social stress, what's happening in family, extremely important stories. If you're a public figure,
делаете и говорите перед другими людьми,
if you speak in front of other people who watch you, or somebody reads your code, you're always stressed. You don't want to look like a fool. If before animals ran away and its physical death was frightening, but now social death is even worse. When you ask your wife, so I'm going to a conference, so do I look okay? And she says, yes, you're okay. So it's hot on the street outside, and if I come there with shorts, so they're going to think I'm an idiot. So, and I am spending a lot of energy to think. So everybody has their own fears. So if you cannot run it through your brain many, many times, so everything goes in there. Toxins, information. I used to work in one of the regions of Moscow in a big medical center. I think Komsomolsky Highway, 6 lanes, and I came from England, and along Thames I was biking, cycling, and I take my kid to school. And it's different smell. So all schools are there. It's completely different smell, and I think it's quite difficult to live in Russia, in Moscow. And I see the guy that is running along the highway, along the garden ring, with 10 lanes. So, kind of pardon me, if you do sports and your breathing is heavier when you run among the cars and pollution, so I wouldn't say it's clever to do. It's a smart thing to do. So it's better to run in a park or go in suburbs outside the city, because you may catch any infections and allergies. I have a friend who lives in Moscow now. He's from Ekaterinburg. He was traveling around Asia. He came to Moscow and said, so why are you traveling for 1 month and a half? And he said, so because birch tree is blooming, and that's why I have these allergies. So pharmacological stress is also here. It adds to stress, behavioral stress, fear, not enough relaxations, negative perceptions. So what is in zone of our personal control is to look at how many people we label with this, we label as fools, because it's not fun to be among fools or idiots, and that's, I'd say, a habit of our brain. It has nothing to do with us. The people don't change, more or less, but it's pretty cheap to work with, to look at yourself. Do you have some negative thoughts or relationships, like the weather is bad, it's against summer, it's again winter, it's cold, or whatever. So poor sleep, overtrained, or hypodynamics, hypodynamia, smoking or half narcotic drugs, caffeine, coffee. It's also stress because it puts you in this hyperactive mode, and then your organism will have to put special efforts to to kind of slow down. Just imagine in the car. So two people bought the same car. Potentially, it gets to 0 to a post. One of them is driving slowly, it's okay, and the second one is pushing the accelerator to the bottom. And we know whose car will live longer. The same with the body. Excessive sugar. If you saw me on social media, so I fight with sugar consumption a lot. So some people, they don't even understand how much sugar they have. With kids, we do some events. How a kid, a modern kid, how they eat a cake. Have you seen that? Do you have children? Anybody who has children? Did you watch children when they eat cake?
И все, на третьем укусе нет куска торта. Замечали такое?
So they like 3 bites and the piece of cake is gone.
Я просто про детей.
And they rush like that, you know. I'm talking about children, so without like pointing finger at somebody. So the same happens to us. So the whole pleasure from the cake happens in the mouth because all the receptors that react to something sweet, they're here in the mouth. That's why a little spoon, you put it in your mouth, you got your pleasure. After this third bite of the cake, it's way too much. So if you put a lot of cake in your mouth and somebody's trying to catch you, so you get a lot of sugar in your blood, zero pleasure. I used to work with the top manager and they told me, so I eat chocolate everywhere. I can see all the wrappers everywhere in my office. How it happens, he said. So it's just kind of invisibly happens. You know, somebody comes to me, left, and I see a whole bunch of wrappers of chocolate. So let's not deprive you of the chocolate, but put a lock on the door so that you can choose the chocolate time. So there will be relaxation time. You can open the cabinet, get the chocolate, and do that. So you have this story with sugar. So you will be surprised how little you will eat of it. Alcohol. Bad diet habits. Same here. Chronic hypercortisolemia. It's constant stress, constant exhaustion. You get to the chronic cortisol. It's called traumatic stress, an effect of being stuck. A traumatic event, you're on. You responded, stress, down, stress again, down again. So, and that's an example of being burnout. This is, imagine this switch got broken and you're always on, and you're in the stress, you're stuck in it. Did you have that when in the morning you had a bad communication with someone and you feel like, and children sometimes come to me and say, Father, I can't stop, I'm just like all shaking all over. And you begin to breathe with the child. And imagine an adult. On that state, they go somewhere, and many fights on the highway, it happens like that because of it. Because somebody goes there with this stress on, still on, and somebody kicks them, and they begin to fight. Chronic stress. So it's already syndrome, it's a Cushing disease, so high blood pressure, thin hands, so you have all the symptoms of osteoporosis, fat of the upper part of the body, fattening of it. And when I look at this picture, my father had a picture. It's an IT officer from 2000s. It's a person that lives in a constant lack of time, that something will get broken, something you can't update, something you can't download, and so on and so forth. There's chronic stress. If you feel
Постоянный повышенный аппетит, переедание, опять же,
the disorder, sugar disorder, and you eat more and say you didn't sleep enough, already you have a high stress and you consume additional resources of organism. The person who didn't sleep eats more than the person who did sleep. So calcium leaves your bones. You have pains in your lower back. So, do you have pain in your lower back? Maybe it's not about being old. It's a story about stress.
Смотри, я в каком-то месте выступал.
See, people found the drug from stress, but they can't open it. So there was young people in this audience, and they couldn't understand the slide. You see this golden star bomb, Chinese bomb, and it's very hard to open the box. So what actions we have to modify our life? That's the first one. You need to change your life. You have to have certain schedule. You have to have stress management. It should be like Nana Habits. Atomic Habits, there's a popular book. And stress management must be one of those. It should be one of those atomic habits. Once a week, I walk in the forest. Once in 6 months, I go hiking in Ural Mountains. Once a day, I have contrast shower. So if you feel the level of stress in your life and it's very close to chronic stress, then it means then you don't have these atomic habits that you can manage it. Oftentimes it happens because of hygiene of your sleep, the amount of noise, light, and all that. So shower is an interesting thing in order to fall asleep well. So you need to lower the temperature of your body like half a grade, but it's very hard to do it when heating is still on. But now it's hot outside, they turned off the heating, so ambient environment brings back this thermoregulation and helps you to regulate the temperature. And before you go to bed, the temperature drops half a grade. And the best story to do that is to go to shower. Any shower will do. So just kind of you need to remind your body that it know how to thermoregulate. So all the nozzles should be cleaned of the body, these thermoregulation nozzles, and it's going to be done. You can do it with a shower. Nutrient support, dietary supplements. Those supplements, food supplements, they're really great and can help. But how they market them, they show is real. So, did you take anything like a pill from the box? I do it all the time, and I just can't help it. Adaptogens, that specific substance, extracts of glands. It's a very powerful thing. Especially you have those who hunt beavers. So we studied beavers and why they're so strong.
Примерно, да, там 1 из 5 человек доживает до 65 лет, но он в отличном здоровье.
One of 65 people can live to 65 when they use this different medicine and actually drink deer blood too, those hunters. Hormones, psychological correction in the modern world, it's quite an interesting thing.
Статистика из высокоразвитой страны.
Had the statistics from a developed country, our stress may impact your guts, and you have this gut disorder, this syndrome, diarrhea or constipation, or many other things. So the study shows that 20% of the people can remove that problem as soon as they go to cognitive behavioral therapy. In other words, they discuss their life strategies with someone. You can do it in sauna. Psychotherapy in Russia, people have a different take on it. But the thing is, if you share with someone what you feel, what you're gonna do, it helps you to reduce stress. So this talking helps, really helps. One of the very interesting things, there is this guy, Glenn Fox. He studies effect of gratitude. And he said, this is the brain of the person, how it flares, how it lights up at the point of gratitude, when they feel love. And he says, when people feel gratitude, brain becomes more whole. And different parts of the brain, they communicate. A certain part of the brain is growing, more gray matter. In family psychotherapy, if you can say something to your family member, what you're grateful for, if you have a partner, it makes miracles. So you can just say what you're grateful for in your life. As practice, I did it for 100 days. So you're trying to come up with something first day, second day, fifth day, that brain during the day, brain tells you, so look at this beautiful bird, let's just write it down. So, to kind of play with the exercise. So by the 20th day of this practice, you begin to pay attention. So that's a nice song. That's for this. So the girl smiled at me. So it's a great guy over there, over here. So and so on and so forth. And all of a sudden, just realize around you there are many reasons to be positively tuned, so to speak, and you can feel much better. And again, antidepressants. So if you look at different traditions, so from those deer hunters and deer shepherds, so any religion's prayer before meal, speak the words of gratitude, and naturally the level of stress goes down, and they move from this mode of run and fight. You just calm down, and after that you eat. We modern people, it's not that we just eat in the mode of stress. We actually increase stress when we watch something. And of course it doesn't work like this, and of course the food wouldn't be digested properly. You may spend a lot of money for all these things, but at the same time, if you look at your telephone, so your intestines are in spasm, and what happens, your poop is very costly, in other words, because of that. Of course, you can remove stressful situations. Of course, if you go to islands, you're not going to have less stress. Time management helps you to get rid of stress and to be able to switch from one to another. Removing internal stress, anything, to deal with health, removing toxic loads and noise, light, and all that. More than for many years, I begin to realize it's like that. No matter where I live in any country, I live outside the city. Every time I come to Moscow and I look at these people here, and I begin to think, oh my God, it's so difficult to endure this town, this city. So many people, they don't know each other. It's hard. And when I come back home, there is my dog, my greenhouse, and it's just much better among trees. Of course, I say there are no owls. So here we're talking about sleep. I don't know how Vyacheslav can sleep without supplements from 2 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock in the morning. So anyway, so don't get overheated, work rationally. So I remember that I was looking at a friend of mine who was reading a book, work only 4 hours a week. So you need to work 12 hours a day, but 14 hours. And there was this book about Elon Musk. He said 100 hours a week.
Победю.
Easily, we'll do that. It's hard, actually.
Ближе все к нему подходим. Адаптогены
Rational
интересные вещества, которые известны,
diet,
влияют
that's important.
на наш
Adaptogens,
метаболизм, регулируют
they
наше взаимодействие,
regulate our metabolism.
взаимодействие с иммунной системой, с нервной системой и так далее.
They help us to deal with our neurosystem, immune system.
Элеутерокок есть в каждой аптеке перед сезоном простуд, нагрузки и так далее, и так далее. Самый модный.
So you can.
Сейчас найдем где. Ну вот кардицепсы, рейши, всякие грибы и так далее.
Eleuterococcus actually can help send some ashwagandha without stimulating effect.
Контроле с ней, хотя, ну, я не сомневаюсь.
And for some reason, our drug agency
просто привозить.
They have ban on ashwagandha.
Препараты, насколько я понимаю, ну там сложно, да. Есть основные адаптогены, есть.
There are main adaptogens, and there are additional ones, and they have a different way of taking it. So, have you ever used this
сердце может остановиться.
St. John's wort? If actually you take an antidepressant, so your heart may stop if you take this herb, St. John's wort, and so it depends on the genetics that you have. And ginkgo biloba that systematically improves blood flow in your brain. That's a good thing. And what Vyacheslav was saying, there is a phase of sleep when lymphatic system works, and not everybody understands that the brain opens up all systems and it just drops all toxic compounds. And this is how it releases it and gets in different phases of sleep. And if we support it with some tonics, and it's going to be easier to detox. So it mainly because of that, if somebody tried to work for 24 hours, your head begins to work very difficult. It's very hard for the head. So when you don't sleep for 24 hours, it's just a totally different mode. And there are studies of American soldiers during the storm in the desert times. So those who didn't sleep, they were shooting what's called friendly fire. So they were shooting at their own 7 times more than it happens in usual combat. Did you try L-theanine?
Хорошая нано-привычка.
It's a good nano-habit of taking this L-theanine, and much it's very balanced with caffeine. How to help your brain on your plate. So we have this unique thing, this mucus, and there are microbes that live on your mucus tissue. So these microbes, they need to eat the food fiber, and they produce this thing that's called butyrate. But so there is this.
У регулирующего органа возникают проблемы с этим словом, да, по-английски butyrate, у нас по-русски
So malonic acid, or butyrate in English.
Почти самая короткая.
So, and this is the only
вплоть того, что она доходит до мозга, влияет на
butyric acid that gets to your brain. It impacts your immune cells. It makes them anti-inflammatory. So it feeds it to your intestine. Intestine produces mucus that protects your intestines. This is a normal person right here, and this is the modern person living in the city. They don't eat food fibers. They take antibiotics. They don't have this layer of mucus. Nobody is feeding the cells through these holes between the cells. Toxic stuff goes through and gets to the immune system. Immune system gets in the inflammatory mode. and the brain is intoxicated, it gets these toxic compounds. Dr. Mechnikov, 100 years ago, wrote in his book, The Miracle of Optimism, he studied a lot mentally and experimentally what happens in intestines of human being, and he understood that people, Bulgarians who live for a long time, they eat some kind of milk-based substance. So there was this, they call them probiotics. Maybe you've heard something about this. So he came up with this word. So he said, what happens, we intoxicate ourselves, we poison ourselves with the decomposing products, and because you're eating too much animal protein, and if you eat the meat twice, and you can be sure that it goes to your large intestine, and it will sit there and decompose and gets rotten if you didn't properly chew on it. So what happens with
Ферментация – это типа против гниения на одних часах, на одной чаше весов. Другой ферментации. Вот ферментация борется.
If you didn't properly chew on fiber, so then it's gonna take long for it to be digested and all that. So, but if you do it properly, so you have less probability of cancer. So, and when you increase increase the variety that you use fiber, so you will be healthier. 30 of us worked in Pirogovska, and we were learning about what is microbiota. So it was amazing. I was buying and destroy all types of plants, and I learned how to cook them. 10 years ago, I was experimenting on myself, and so at the end of this experiment was my own failure, that I was going to the bathroom way too quickly, and I went to gastroenterologist, and I said, I eat and I go right away to the toilet. And I said, what you ate, and I was experimenting with plants, and I was thinking, so it seems what happens, so you got to certain physiology of to eat and out. So if you eat like this, so it all goes like a conveyor. What's main thing is that it transits, so it's all comes out. So he kind of calmed me down, and I continued my experiments. Intestine impacts your brain because of your immune system, and metabolic compounds go to your brain, and they keep the stable level of energy. And at the same time, brain sends signals back to intestines, and stress and relaxation. This is a simple signal that we get to intestines. In a state of stress, we can't digest. And if you remember that around intestines you have immune cells, in a state of stress we don't produce proper immune cells, and for us the only the best salvation here is to sleep, and this is when we get our new immune cells. So what happens, this story about brain and intestines is about 200 years long, and even back then, scientists were writing that between the brain and intestine, there are neurons, and they kind of communicate to each other. And in my view, brain is not the most important thing from the point of view of evolution. The first would happen, intestine came first, and brain was like an additional thing to help in testing to find the food. And then at some point, brain was developing more and more, and then the brain developed to these two lobes of the brain, and who is programmed in order to eat. So this is how you use your brain, our cognitive ability, and the level of neuromediators that ensure this communicative abilities. Microbes do that. Quite interesting experiment, and it's pretty illustrative. It turns out that any villi, and we can see how it looks in microscope, this endocrine cell, and it transforms signal into electric signal, and it goes to brain.
Это называется оптогенетика, да, как оптовакуумные кабеля, мы уже давно кабели, мы умеем давно встраивать в
So it's like optofiber, and we read electric signals, we throw the sugar, and we can see that it goes to the brain of the mouse. There's from billions of these villi, and we get the chemical signal. And our brain brings the same signals, and we create the threat signals in the brain before even the immune system found something. So what's interesting also, Vyacheslav had this gamma aminobutyric acid. It's a special mediator that impacts cognitive abilities of old people.
Look, my numbers are right. Yeah, there is a delay in speech, so it's an important neuromediator, but also informative products. Different microbes from kimchi look at this ability to create a milligram per liter of this gamma. It's interesting. If you take fermented food or kind of probiotics, we install like microbes into our body, which are capable of producing neural mediators, which makes us more calm, more reasonable, and they help us to get recuperated after learning. For a kid, it's a critically important. What we're saying, fight or flight, it's a sympathetic, and this is parasympathetic, like relax and digest and restore and think about something, get new ideas. Switching between them, there is a switch, which is called vagus nerve, like a cluster of neurons from the brain. Its nerve endings go to all the internal organs from the throat and down. As soon as we stimulate this vagus nerve, it looks like, well, like a wiping the dust, wiping the rust out of this switch, and it becomes like more high quality. The tone of this switch is better. Yes, we have a stress, something is going on, but when we turn the other way, immediately we moved into relaxation. So vagus is responsible for that. Actually, the tone of this vagus, you can uphold it through the changing hot and cold, singing, chiming. We're also stimulating the endings of the vagus nerves, and we help this nerve to be more proactive, to be more dynamic. And of course, it's probiotics, meditation, omega-3 fatty acids, any additives or any activities, massage, laughter and socialization, all of that is really helping you. So microbes, which we can also add into our gut, are called probiotics. They are fighting toxins, like pathogens. They also impact the quality of our immune system. They help us to produce good things. And also, probiotics should become the part of our diet. It used to be the case 15,000 years ago. We've done to do cheese, chocolate, milk, bread and chocolate. It's hard to imagine which food was not fermented. All of them are fermented, but now technology is overused and we're trying to go back. So probably the food of our future will be the food rich with live microbes impacting our function. What can we do to fix this case in our gut, which is a source of intoxication? Of course, to remove potential harmful inflammation factors and toxic factors. Like I'm fighting the sweet stuff, but it's better to eat dry fruits than the Snickers chocolate bar. So it should be a rule. If you will check, only 20% of the bad food that we're eating is giving 80% of damage to our body. It's a Pareto rule. So look at this 20% of bad food, and you just change it, kind of replace it with a different. It's not like a concentration camp. You don't eat sugar, but eat a good sugar. A lot of amino acids and collagens you have to eat. We can eat soups and stuff like that. Good fats like avocado and stuff. Anti-inflammatory nutraceutics. Most of them is like curcumin. from curcumin, and also microbiome restoration. Well, you gotta do something for your microbes. The easiest rule that I want to follow whenever I'm teaching people that we've done, like, you've had some food, you eat, have some food for your microbes. You're doing something for your microbes. Want to do more? Just more diversity. 50 different plant sources during the week. They'll give you more for your microbiomes. What else? I have only 3 minutes, and I also would like to remind us that actually, just the numbers. What is the norm of it's a 50%, five portions of vegetables. Vegetarians eat a lot, but also we eat not enough fibers, and people as more fiber you eat, the better it will be. If you're still like one sitting, that means, or even better, you are around a norm. Well, creativity, we're going to finish up with creativity next time, and I want to invite our MC. Let's give a round of applause. This is the right time. Thank you for all these great factors. Now, questions. We have too many questions, so let's make it like a blitz. Just let's do some of the questions. A question from Scooby-Doo. I've read an article that there are some bacteria impacting character and behavior of a person, making him more altruistic, more bold, or not. How many research have been done in this sphere? Like cordyceps. Yeah, it's a good story. Yes, indeed. Experimental, it has been proven that people who are in the have a good microbiome, they are more altruistic, and actually, it follows the logic, because when you feel good, you don't have any problems, you want to do something for others. When you feel bad, your microbes are bad, you're taking care only about yourself. So we gotta give microbiotics to all of the politicians so that we would become more altruistic. And also, continuing. So what do we do with those bearded blonde guys, which you may be apprehensive about? If I were GPT chat, sometimes banana is just a banana. I signed up on a Telegram group, which is called Bad News. Bad News. Why have I signed for that? Instead of just work with the positive technologies. Am I doing this to support myself and compensate? Yeah, to keep the tonus, to be in a shape. Yeah, it's a habit. You are hooked on your cortisol, on this kind of black news, because, it's kind of wakes you up. So maybe I'm trying to define what is good and what is bad. But anyway. What food supplements can help me to normalize my stress? Like I said, adaptogens and other, like L-theanine, which would be safe for you. And also, there is quite a big research about magnesium, that you can improve the quality of your sleep. And indeed, we all live in deficit, but I would stop at that. This graph of cortisol, is it relevant for both owl and larks, or it's kind of average data? This is average data, but always in the moment when we wake up, we'll feel, of course, wake up, you're waking up with this kind of wave of enhanced cortisol, the sugar pumps in, you want to move. If you wake up without a strength, probably the cycle is broken, cortisol is kind of sleeping somewhere. If you wake up powerless, it means that your cortisol cycle is broken up. Your sleeping pattern are broken up, and you are in a certain dysfunction. Next one. What can you tell me about the simple and complex dopamine? Is it true that simple dopamine makes a person lazy? Yeah, probably they mean that the complex dopamine that you need and you kind of you run, you kind of produce this complex dopamine. You make an effort. I think that people are conscious and smart. If you have this analogy with coins, take responsibility for your life, how you spend your dopamine coins in your life. It's like in the case of Mr. Dubinin with losing weight, you want to do something great, but you're like just watching and wasting dopamine, just watching Netflix forever. That's not good. If you have big intentions for big results, you want to build something cool in your life, of course, it's better to spend your dopamine in a right way and try to do something. What will happen if you will be investing in this resource? I mean, I think that the small habits and small steps, like watch movies just before you go to bed and falling asleep while watching movies, it kind of moves you in a different direction, away from productive life. Maybe when you're super tired, maybe in December you can do it like that. But if it becomes like a 24/7, 12-month, then 24/7, then this is weird.
Коллеги подсказывают, у нас 5 минут на все про все, так что будем быстры и решительны.
We have 5 minutes, only 5 minutes. How can I get rid of TikTok dependence and stop scrolling?
Я не знаю.
Вопрос.
I don't know. Frankly, do I have to? Do I need to?
Говорила моя учительница по религиоведению и философии, радости тела неотделимы от...
I mean, joys of the body are not separated from the joys of the spirit. Limiting one thing, you limit the other thing, my teacher said. I think each of us in our lives have dealt in kind of addictions. Our world is very addictive. You just have to know that these addictions are taking resource from you, and the best way to know whether it's dependence or addiction or not, try to live without it for a while. Go through this kind of craving period and see what will happen, and compare before and after. And every time when we get our own unique experience, not just a word from the blogger or kind of research, but your own experience in life, living with and without TikTok, make an experiment. Can I live a day? Can I see what will happen? In this day, I'm going to be open, and then I'll compare this day like Monday and Tuesday. So come to your own conclusions, and usually this will be your experience, which is moving you forward. Yeah, good luck fighting your demons. Question from Tatiana. Sometimes ordinary activity causes stress. For example, if you're an introvert, you do not like communication. How do you fight stress from this action and start living? We all have our uniqueness. The more like we're old, the more they're pronounced. Of course, if one of them is like a stress from doing something, I mean, if you can make your life so that you don't have this stress source in your life, okay, fine, do this. That's the easiest way to get out of it. And the easiest example would be they're afraid of flying. Some people are afraid of flying, they get a lot of stress, they do not fly. There are some people who are afraid to fly, but they realize that they want to fly. And then they go through this some kind of methodology, courses, whatever, to be able to overcome this fear of flying. So you gotta decide, what do you want? Do you want to fight it, or do you want to make sure they would be so? And then do not fight with your introversy, or talk to people when you have a zero resource, you're tired, you're like December 20, that does not work. But if you have time, you have your resource, and you're on vacation, I'll go and talk to people. So this is going to give you a better result. This hypercompensation for fears, is that good? Like, I'm afraid of spiders. Do I need to get a spiders in my home to stop being afraid of them?
Я ко всему в жизни отношусь как к крутому эксперименту.
I take everything in life as a cool experiment, and the coolest experiment is our life. If you have courage to do that, and it's not like you're gonna die. This is a very dangerous experiment. I would try. If you want to do that, yeah. Okay, then. How to break dopamine cycle and not to get hooked on doom scrolling forever in social media. There are some cool advice. Indeed, go ahead and try some periods like stay away. Put away your phone. Some people get a dumb phone or Java phone back. My way is to travel. We have a huge country. Huge country. There are a lot of places where you cannot have a cell phone reception. So go away, go far away to Caucasus, Valley. You go up, your phone is just a brick. Just a brick. You can take a photo and that's it, right? It does not work. In 1 week of this kind of life, you do a dopamine detox and many other things you're seeing around you. 40 seconds. 40 seconds.
Реально ли струя бобра помогает? Нет, это не тот.
I'm trying to choose my question.
Какие книги порекомендуете? 3 книги.
What books would you recommend? I've consigned a book for kids with Vyacheslav. It's like a super adult, actually. Team's Adventures in the Brain. We have a cool team of my friends. We begin to write books for kids about how to use your brain and the world. And we have like a third book. The second one that we've written was Adventures of the same team about appetite and the human appetite regulation. And the first one was about bacteria. There are a lot of like Easter eggs and adult humor. You have your kids, you can read it. It'll be interesting for both of you. But again, why I'm advising this book? Because indeed, we are getting the photos of the kids who are sleeping with these books under their pillows, because it's a great field of love and humor, and of course some kind of practical intellectual advice. Yeah. That's a good advertising, But thank you so much for many questions that you've sent. The final question. How do you rest well not to increase level of stress? Because now people are watching series, playing games on the weekend, but it looks like this does not give them a true relaxation and rest. We know that the best rest is like switching between activities. If you're talking a lot, try to be alone. If you're sitting, try to walk, try to stand and move. If you're always in the city, try to get out to the nature. I mean, switch between different ways of doing things. If you work with one kind of people, then spend time with the different people. It's not like I'm playing video games and then I'm watching this. No. Yeah, don't do the same thing over and over. Find something. And like diversity and switching between activities usually work or where we spend our resources. It's quite monotonous. It's always the same. But your rest could be like today's a bike and a swimming, dog, whatever. Let's thank Dmitry Alekseev.